To reiterate, The Conjuring took place during the years 1968 and 1971, the latter being where the greater majority of the movie took place. Let's move back to 1967, 1 year prior to the opening events of The Conjuring and the start of the spin-off film, Annabelle. Annabelle, if you haven't figured it out yet, is a spin-off to the widely successful and extremely popular The Conjuring. The movie opens with the same opening sequence as The Conjuring, with Donna, Angie, and Lou describing the strange occurrences that happen with the doll, Annabelle. Cut to Santa Monica, 1 year earlier, where we are introduced to the three main characters of the film, Mia and John Form, and the priest Father Perez. We are also introduced to Pete and Sharon Higgins. But don't get attached to these two, they don't live long. Anyway, we learn the Higgins lost their daughter 3 years prior to the events of the film. She didn't die, but she ran away to join the hippies, whom we later find out are truly a cult named the Family. After some exposition, cut to Mia and her creepy doll collection. Her husband John gives her an Annabelle doll, a doll which Mia has been searching for a long time. We find out in Annabelle Creation why the dolls are so hard to come by, but we'll get to that later. That night is when all the interesting stuff starts to happen. With a nice camera shot, we get a look at what is happening across the window to the Higgins. Pete tells Sharon to stay in bed, as presumably someone might be in the house. As Sharon calls the police, she comes to learn that Pete's suspicion was in fact correct. A man approaches Sharon with a knife, and she too meets a terrible fate, like her husband. Mia tells John she heard a scream, and John goes over to investigate, leaving Mia alone on the steps at her house. John runs out of the house and tells Mia to get back inside and call an ambulance. Mia and John are attacked. Mia got stabbed in the stomach, the male intruder was shot dead, and the female intruder was found dead caressing the Annabelle doll, while a single drop of her blood falls onto the doll's eyes. We get a news report explaining that the Higgins were murdered by their own daughter, Annabelle Higgins. Mia and John return home from the hospital, and literally that same night the two start to experience some hauntings. Mainly the Annabelle doll moving around, the sewing machine turning on, and the rocking chair moving on its own. John decides to throw away the doll, and the movie skips to the following day where, oh hey, it's Deputy Dewey. Wait, I mean Detective Clark. Anyway, he explains to the forums more about the attackers, essentially boiling down to, crazy people do crazy things. After some more exposition and more of Annabelle's spooky doll antics, which somehow involves making popcorn, we finally get to Mia's pregnancy, where she gives birth to a girl named Leia. Moving on, the family moves to Pasadena, where after unpacking all the remaining boxes, the Annabelle doll somehow appears yet again, despite John throwing it out before they moved. Mia, being a horror movie character, decides to keep the doll. Because, plot, I guess. Even though she was the one who told John to throw it out in the first place. This movie seems to be extremely heavy on exposition, because after some more of it, we get some scary stuff happening. The family encounters their typical flair of hauntings, like noises, things moving around, scary visions, and Mia is even chased around by a demon a couple times. After Mia is pursued by the demon, whom she presumed to be residing within the Annabelle doll, Mia calls back Detective Clark to gather information about Annabelle. It is during this phone call that we learn that the cult was comprised of devil worshippers who intended to summon supernatural beings. Mia makes her way to a local bookstore to see if she could find any more information that may help her with her current circumstances. It is there she meets Evelyn, and where we learn that the cult summoned a demon who followed the family after they moved to their apartment in order to claim a soul. Mia and Leia return home, where they are confronted by the demon possessing the doll and are attacked. Mia manages to escape with both hers and Leia's life intact. Understandably shaken by the situation, and in fear for their lives, John and Mia contact Father Perez for help. In this universe, we learn that demons cannot possess objects, but can attach themselves to them in an effort to accomplish their goal. In addition, Father Perez informs us that demons will not stop unless they are exorcised, a technique that only a privileged few can learn, or a human soul is offered for a purpose. Unable to exorcise the demon out of the doll, Perez takes the doll and seeks the Warrens for their help. Unfortunately, before Perez makes it to his destination, that being the church, the demon, manifested as Annabelle's spirit, attacks him and takes the doll. The following day, John visits the priest, who has been hospitalized due to the demon's attack. The father informs John that the demon's true intention is to claim Mia's soul. That same night, while Evelyn is visiting Mia, the demon uses Father Perez's form to sneak into Mia's apartment. It grabs Mia's daughter, and in an effort to save her, Mia decides to exchange her life for Leia's. She approaches the window, but before she could jump, John manages to step in and save her. Knowing that the demon will stop at nothing to get a soul, Evelyn decides to take her own life to save the Form family. She jumps out the window with Doll at hand, and both the demon and the doll vanish. From that point forward, the Forms continue their life, happy to be alive, and continue to live their lives in peace. 6 months later, Donna's mother would buy the antique doll at a hobby shop, where she would give it to her daughter, which starts the events of the first Conjuring film. Also, fun fact, in the scene where Donna's mother buys the Annabelle doll, you can see a Raggedy Ann doll on the upper left corner of the shot, a nice nod to the actual Annabelle doll, which is also a Raggedy Ann doll.